How much do we need to put in link today? All your money. Take out loans. Moldbug's musings. Once again, Moldbug is dumb retardation for dumb people who want to be smart. All right, when does he go on? When is this stupid freak go on? Is he wearing sunglasses and long hair like a little freak still? Where is he? Oh, here we are. Cut your hair, fag. The dumb person, smart person. Curtis Yarvin. And the thing is too, is like I don't have any loans. I pay my stuff. I'm actually like very, very honorable, and then I don't take out bad loans and pay them. I do pay them back. But it is so funny that I'm also the opinion, like when people talk to me about it, I'm like, you don't pay them. Like you got scammed, and in like a honorable world, you should pay them back because you got scammed, but it's not an honorable world. Like I'm somebody who has never not paid back a loan or gotten into debt. I actually don't go into debt. I never have. And I should have probably. But as somebody who's never done this, don't do it. Don't pay. Don't pay. Don't pay if you have $100,000 in student debt, pay absolutely nothing. Like absolutely do not pay any of that. Like completely ignore any sort of notification. But people who have the debt for some reason are more like concerned. The people who are going to not think about it also have like the weird guilt about it. And it's like, you don't worry about it. Like I literally got scammed. They scammed you. It's their problem. Now have them contact you. You know, just literally don't pay anything. Screw them. You have you're morally in the right to not pay Shylock. All right.
This is going to be a great hour. I've been following this guy for a while.
It's different. If it's not normally happening and you go out of your way, like you go to a loan shark to gamble money and then you don't pay and you get your kneecaps broken, that's fine. Whatever. You are retarded and you're low moral character because you're like a gambling addict. But if everybody owes $100,000 coming out of school, it's not actually your fault. It is actually the system, and it's not immoral to refuse to pay. If you're somebody who gets like your kneecaps broken by a loan shark because you you gambled on like sports as an adult because you're a piece of trash, that's fine. They can break your legs. Neither of you are really good people. But if you're like a college student or a high school student and you take out a huge loan for something that you were told and you trust people, you trust your parents, you trust your society, even though that's retarded in certain cases, most cases, you trust them to have your back, and they don't have your back, you have no obligation to pay them back. You have no obligation to pay the debt. And, I would say it's a mark of moral character not to pay the loan, honestly. To go out of your way not to, and potentially face whatever legal or financial repercussions, that's more brave than working 5 jobs and paying back. Like you have more moral character by refusing to be taken advantage of and, becoming a hassle for these people, and specifically choosing not to pay back stuff you could pay back. It's more brave to do that. Just never pay your student loans, ever. That's my motto.
He's extremely smart, and the media covers him a lot too. And he's something. It's Curtis Yarvin, also known by the
He's so smart.
For a while.
Leftists hate him. Nobody ignores him. It's the Charlie Kirk Show.
All right, this is going to be fun, everybody. This is going to be a great hour. I've been following this guy for a while. He's extremely smart.
When Charlie Kirk says somebody's smart, I sit my dumb ass down and listen. If Charlie Kirk thinks this guy is intelligent, I think he's intelligent.
And the media covers him a lot too. And he's something. It's Curtis Yarvin, also known by the pen name. You're going to have to pronounce the first word for me.
Manchus Moldbug.
Very, very prolific. That's one way to say it. And he has thought-provoking ideas that I just love. I don't agree with them all, but it's just,
like,
it pushes boundaries and makes you reconsider.
Such as what? Kill your wife? Such thought-provoking ideas as kill your wife, poison her, kill your wife, have sex with a BDSM autistic woman for 5 months, sext men, who you think are women while your child's on the couch next to you. Such thought-provoking ideas as take MDMA and do shitty poetry readings in Williamsburg after your wife dies, and do MDMA in a midlife crisis. Such groundbreaking ideas as poison your wife.
Thanks, Curtis. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Charlie. It's a pleasure to be on.
So Curtis, how about a brief introduction? How'd you get into this? You have a unique approach to how you think about some of the problems the country faces.
Yeah. So I started blogging about this stuff about 15 years ago.
Yeah. 1800 Anglo writer.
And I sort of grew up as a very normal kind of.
It's like an army brat. I was an army brat. I was like an army brat. And so people call it the Democratic Party when really it's the Democrat Party. And as an army brat, Democratic Party is actually incorrect. And like if you're like elite, it's actually Democrat Party.
State American, really. Actually, my dad was in the Foreign Service, which is kind of the elite of the deep state. So you might say that I grew up inside the deep state. And after a while, I sort of stopped believing in it. And then I kind of tried to believe in some of these alternatives to it. And it's sort of, I came to the conclusion that there's really a lot of fakeness there on both sides. And maybe to a certain extent, you're watching the Harlem Globetrotters against the Washington Generals. And so what do we do about the Washington Generals is the most important question, I think, in the world today.
So which side is which?
The Generals would be the Republicans.
He looks like shit. Right? Yeah, dude. Everything about him is shit, dude.
Right. And the Harlem Globetrotters are the Democrats?
That's right.
So you write analytically, and I just want to make sure I give credit where credit's due. You said a line in one of your writings where you said every time the bad guys.
So like I coined like the red pill, like the phrase the red pill. Like I coined it. So like as an army brat.
Democracy, just replace it with oligarchy.
That's right. That's right. Because what they're talking about there is sometimes you'll see like the Soros.
Not only just a sports reference, a basketball reference.
Phrase civil society, that means oligarchy. And what oligarchy means is the rule of the administrators, the rule of the experts, the rule of the Faucis. That's the sort of, Fauci is.
Why is his shirt unbuttoned too? And you guys can't see it with the chat, but why is his pocket unbuttoned on his shirt? Because that's slobby. Like, button your shirt, dude. If you're gonna wear a button down on like a radio show, which is funny. Just button your shirt. Don't leave your shirt pocket unbuttoned. What are you doing?
Invulnerable. He retired recently, but his job tenure was considerably safer than George III's. And if somebody passed a law saying we're not going to have gain of function research, and Fauci and his friends want gain of function research, that's not going to stick.
So why is dude? Number one, you got trash genetics. You look like a little trash bag. Every time I see these people, I think of like those Force Flex trash bag advertisements, and that's their body. Like their genetics are essentially just Force Flex. I just think of a commercial for a Force Flex trash bag.
Count on Glad bags to measure up to the task. The unique Force Flex diamond texture stretches with your trash.
I just think of something jutting out of a Force Flex trash bag.
And tears. And thanks to the drawstring,
it's just like their entire body is just a big trash bag.
Glad.
That's what it reminds me of. Like his neck. The Force Flex trash bag for all the trash shoved down his gullet. Well, at what age do you think it's ridiculous to still be playing social sports? I don't know what you mean by social sports.
And so
somebody send me $100 and I'll answer the question.
So you're looking at absolute power here. It's very important to sort of recognize the power of all governments is absolute. They can do anything they want. The question is how power is spread around that oligarchy. And what you have is these little pieces of absolute power in the hands of the Faucis, and sort of for every kind of policy area, there's someone like Fauci, there's someone in the academic community, someone in the New York Times who basically has...
Sounds like he has a cold. Let me guess, vaxxed. What is he even saying? He's saying there's people with power? Yeah, dude, we get it. Genius insight. There's people who do stuff and make choices.
A lock on that policy. And what we've seen is that those
Writer, gray mirror. Isn't it gray mirror? Oh, it's A. I thought it was an E. I guess I'm just not NRX enough.
policies get more and more deranged until we had this incredible pandemic that they
I'm sorry, Talibro, you can't see.
literally went out and invented to basically get more grants. And realizing, this sort of just one example of the rule of these people.
Fauci's like a kingpin.
Soviet it's become. COVID was like Chernobyl, but like killing, 100,000 more people.
Yes.
Times as many people.
And I guess the
What? COVID didn't kill anybody. In the words of Generation Alpha person I was around the other day, I'm not making this up. COVID came up, and this Generation Alpha kid was like, it was so funny. He was like, it's just a glorified flu. I laughed so hard because I wasn't going to be like encouraging him because whatever, he's a kid. I don't want him to be like disrespectful or make people upset because it's like when you're a kid, you're going to say stuff that's true, but you can't really say because you're around normies. It made me laugh so hard. He's like, it was just a glorified flu. And I was thinking to myself, this is so hilarious. It's so over. It's so over for dumb people. This is like the Generation Alpha kid being like, it's just a glorified flu. And I laughed so hard inside me. Inside, I was like, I chuckled out loud, but I couldn't express how epic it was. It was so funny. It was so awesome, dude.
One of the positives is that people now have a face and a name where they can now see the face of the quote-unquote deep state, Fauci.
Yeah.
But the point you're making is there's hundreds of these operatives.
There's hundreds of these operatives, and it's the structure that they're in that is actually... often people sort of think that it's these people's ideology that is sort of the cause of just the craziness of their decisions. I would say that actually the structure is the cause of the ideology, that progressivism is something that you're going to get inherently out of any system of oligarchical rule.
Is the design of the American system, does it lend itself to inevitable oligarchy?
There have been many American systems.
This nigga looks like an old lady. And he's trying to, a Jewish man, he's trying to figure out how to beat Jewish women. So he's like, if I can't beat them, I'm going to join them. The final state of the alpha Jew man is to become a woman.
There's something they do in France where they number the republics. They have the first, second, third. We're on the fifth republic, I think.
The
U.S. basically we see the present system of government.
He looks so easy to rob. He looks so easy to mug on the street.
Franklin Roosevelt in the 1930s, and whatever happened before that is basically ancient history.
So that's interesting. Would you say
Franklin Roosevelt was Jewish? That's what I heard from Brother Nathaniel.
Wilson started that cause set in motion? I mean, I give at least the Claremont Hillsdale people would put a lot of blame or credit on the Wilsonian historicist.
Sure.
shift.
I think that the Claremont people tend to place a little more attention on.
Does he know that book, Thinking Fast and Slow? I haven't read it, but it's like if they remade the book, if Moblug wrote it, it would just be Thinking Slow.
Ideas and maybe
thinking slow and slower
on personalities than I do, and I'm sort of more interested in the kind of structure of historical movements.
That's interesting. So
but certainly Wilson and FDR come out of the same early American progressivism.
But you would say FDR created the actual architecture of the modern administrative state.
That's right.
Okay,
Absolutely
so let's dive into that. There's so many by the way, you're super well read, and this is so interesting.
You're just so smart. Like, I'm just a stupid boy, and you're just a genius. And the fact of the matter is, you're just so smart that nobody has any like real insights from you, and nobody can point to any specific idea or analysis or synthesis of information, any sort of framework for thinking that's forward thinking and actually new. And you're just so smart, and it's just so hard to really even communicate with you because nobody even has any ideas of anything that you've ever come up with. You're just such a genius that there's no synthesis of any sort of framework or philosophy or multiple ideas, conceptions of reality. There's no real evidence of you ever doing anything. So you're just so smart.
Interesting. So FDR was the longest serving president, served a long period of time during a quote unquote depression that lasted significantly long. But did he knowingly build an administrative state for decades and centuries of power? Or you don't really care?
What we call the administrative state, as academics say, or deep state, as we like to say on TV, is essentially FDR's personal administration without its head. So FDR was really operating not quite as a dictator, but really almost as a dictator. He was certainly a dictator in foreign policy.
Confiscated gold.
In domestic policy, there were some areas of resistance to him. He wasn't Stalin exactly. He couldn't order people shot, but he was basically...
And the reason he has such a full head of hair is he has higher estrogen levels. Jews have higher estrogen levels. The more testosterone you have, that's why most Irish people go bald. Irish people go bald at a higher rate than any other group of Europeans, is because being bald is linked to testosterone.
In charge of the federal government.
And that's true.
And essentially and the way he was in charge of the federal government, he created many, many new agencies in DC, the so-called alphabet soup. He used every lever he could, many of them very informal levers, to take over the old agencies. And then when he dies, he's replaced by Harry Truman, who's basically a nobody. And what happens is all the power that he'd held in his hands sort of goes down into this administrative state that he created.
That's an interest. I've never heard that theory before. So you're saying that
I've never heard anybody talk about
structuring and
can't imagine why.
Separate tributaries. And so, like, when FDR broke, the power center decentralized.
That's exactly right.
And it never has been able to consolidate.
And it never has been able to consolidate because nobody, especially, I think personally, my theory, and it's impossible to prove, is that FDR, certainly in 44, when he runs for election, knows he's dying. The American people don't even know he's in a wheelchair. He knows he's dying. And so as his successor, he picks this literal nobody.
From Missouri,
who's a machine politician from Missouri, not even a New Dealer. And people are like, why did he pick this?
This is really relevant.
And the answer is that
this is really interesting. Thank you for this, Charlie Kirk. I can't believe somebody finally is letting this guy talk, because this is fascinating.
So you can't prove it, but your speculation is that the succession plan was that my power will be broken to a million pieces.
Exactly, and therefore it will never be destroyed. And the thing is that it's amazing.
It's like a Horcrux. It's kind of like a Horcrux in Harry Potter and like Voldemort.
No, this guy really did conquer the world, right?
It's like Voldemort from Harry Potter.
Dude, I need money. I need donations because I'm like a genius. All right, listen, I can like emulate the retardation of like a million different people at the same time. I can like predict the future. I'm a genius. Give me $1 million.
Harry Potter reference. Like I will scatter my power amongst
exactly. And this guy really did conquer the world. At the time that he dies, he really thinks Stalin is working for him, and so he doesn't quite realize that the Cold War is about to break out. He still thinks Stalin is his guy. He's conquered the world.
It's like spending your entire life like emulating retarded people so you can fit in, and you just get this like sixth sense of like, oh, these people, what they're gonna say, what they're gonna do. And at this point, it's just like I'm living in this reality where I can just like time travel and I just move without ever getting punished because I just know what everyone's going to do before they do it.
The thing is, you got to understand, as you go back in DC, in time in DC, it becomes more and more monarchical. Things go more from the top down. It works more like a company, less like a bureaucracy. And the people are actually really good. These really are the best and the brightest in DC in the 30s. Now, they have a lot of bad ideas, but they're very, very capable.
I remember.
They are that idea of a civil.
Remember, I was raised, and he's not going to say this right away. It was like, just to talk about being an army brat, and like, I was an army rat. My dad, like, told you the deep state, like we would say Democrat, not Democratic, and it was always very important. And like, and I'll tell you, the quality of the elite, the oligarchy, is just not as good as it used to be. And like, that was the peak. That was peak. And since then, we are just not, the elite are not good. I was an army brat.
servant.
Yeah.
They have families. They're invested in the country. They're not overly ideological.
They're the best Americans. And so if you're
That's
looking
so
for
interesting.
if
Yeah.
you're looking for
It's the
people
Scandinavian model of
if you're looking for people with that level of talent today, you're mostly not going to find them in the government. You're going to find them in Silicon Valley. You're going to find them in various
You're going
areas
to find them
of
at
finance,
Urbit.
But like, people
You're going to find them at
can't
Urbit.
stand working in Washington today.
Do you think that they gravitated towards DC in the 30s for out of duty or honor or the prestige of working for the government, or is it just because the country was a better country?
All of those. It was an incredible experience. You know, it's like the experience of being like, here's one way to convey the experience of being in FDR's early New Deal. It's like you graduated from Harvard with this degree in this new field of economics. Somebody, you know somebody who knows somebody who knows Felix Frankfurter or something. You get a phone call. Your friend is like, hey, why don't you come to DC? You're like, what would I be doing? You're like, he's like, I have no idea. You know, just come. You show up, they give you a desk, an office. You're like, here's $6 million, go electrify Arkansas.
Dude, there's like their souls are like rotted by like all this Kabbalah mysticism. What's it? I just come on, dude. It's 17 million, $100 million. Here's $5 million. It's always 6 million.
You know, that is
yeah.
not the experience of a young man coming to DC today.
Or yeah, here's a thing called the TVA, the Tennessee Valley Authority.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Good
Okay.
luck. Good luck. And they go out.
It's kind of empowering.
They go. It's incredibly empowering, and they go out and they do this stuff.
Yes.
And they have like
super authority.
Super authority. And you know the thing that really, you know, one in all of my like historical researches, one of the things that struck me most is there's a classic book called The Making of the President.
Nate Darnell, thank you for the follow, sir. Thank you, sir.
T.E. White, T.H. White, I think. And he's talking to someone who, you know, is part of the Kennedy machine. And we remember Kennedy as this era of like the new frontier, this bright.
But actually, he was stupid, and Irish people are stupid. And actually, he was like really bad, and it was really bad. Like Kennedy is actually so. I hate Irish people. I'm Jewish, and Irish people aren't as cool as Jews.
Optimism. We're going to do everything. At least libs remember.
But actually, it was like really like the end of like American power when Kennedy got, because he was like an outsider, and they were like bootleggers, and they were like criminals, and they were Irish scum.
Kennedy that way.
Yes.
And he's talking to one of these people, and then he talks to like a new dealer. And the new dealer is just like, after the New Deal, like everything is bland, everything is boring, everything is dead, right? You know, and like the distance from the new frontier to now.
Yes.
If you're working and you like you had all these people come in the Obama era who'd all like watch The West Wing, and they all wanted to.
When I hate Obama, he's black.
They were LARPing as West Wingers. So Curtis, stay right there. We're going to keep this going. This is a great conversation. We're going to get to how do you assail the deep state? How do you restore is it possible to restore representative government? Do we need a CEO as president? I love all this. Email us freedom@charliekirk.com. We're going to go through the breaks, guys, and I will get to rough greens, I promise. Email us freedom@charliekirk.com. Hang on one second.
Oh, that's a good. Nobody talk, nobody gets hurt. That's so funny to have this intro, because there's a line in there. Nobody talks, nobody gets choked. That's the riff in there. Nobody speak, and there's a line in it. That's such a funny one to do.
Picture this, I'm a bag of dicks, put me to your lips. I am sick, I will punch a baby bear in his shit. Give me lip, I'm gonna send you.
What is it called again?
Get a stick, make a switch. I can end the conversation real quick. I am crack, I ain't lying, kick a lie.
That's so funny they have that.
Shit, I will
Because they have
hit your mama on the booty.
the line.
Fuck your bitch, that boy dressed up like you sound on.
It's so funny they have that as their intro. It says, blame your crew quicker than Trump fucks his youngins. That's so funny. That's actually so hilarious that they have that. Good for them. That's wild. They have a song that talks about Trump fucking what's her name? Ivanka. As the, bro, come on. Dude, I can't even.
He's going in there, and I was at a seminar recently, like new discoveries on Watergate, and I actually.
We'll get to rough greens, I promise. Email us freedom@charliekirk.com. Hang on one second.
Yeah, that's the exact thing. That's so funny they have that as the riff. That's so funny.
Is it possible to restore representative government? Do we need a CEO as president? I love all
My intro song for my political show is Donald Trump has sex with his baby daughter, Ivanka.
this. Email us freedom@charliekirk.com. We're going to go through the breaks, guys, and I will get to rough greens, I promise. Email us freedom@charliekirk.com. Hang on one second.
That's so funny. Dude, I can't keep doing this trash. All right.
So you write analytically, and I broke, the power center decentralized.
That phone call, Frontier to now.
We'll get to rough greens, I promise.
No, here we go. I'm not going back. I'm not doing this again.
Hang on 1 second.
That is funny. It is the same thing. Yo, thank you, Rich Delicious Irony.
Delicious Irony sent
Thank you. $10, 2 hours of work. Now we're cooking. Inflation's up. It's not. We're not having negative inflation. I don't understand what the donation situation is. Come on, bro.
Get close or not, or was it like
That's an excellent question, because I think that, no, he didn't get close, and
a distant second?
Well, Nixon, of course, is coming from the right rather than from the left, which is obviously very important. And Nixon's theory, Nixon was probably, I'd say, in terms of IQ, maybe the smartest president of the century. Maybe it was Nixon, maybe it was Wilson. This is a really smart, capable guy, comes from sort of deep America. He's a California Quaker. And Nixon's idea is that
We're secretly all Jewish.
He's going to be the president of the silent majority. He's going to take all this like crazy hippie stuff.
What's going on in Hacker
show
News?
Americans how a government that works. He's going to take over Washington, run it like a grown-up, and do all this grown-up stuff. The problem is that in order to take over Washington and run it like a grown-up, basically, Nixon, for example, in 1968, Cronkite declares the Vietnam War is lost.
This is so boring. Getting old and boring. What can I do?
I can come in and
Kill
I
yourself.
can run the government so
Slit your
well.
wrists.
I can both win the Vietnam War and pull Americans.
It's so funny telling people to kill themselves. Because it's like, it just cuts to the heart of the matter is that these people are already dead inside. And that's really a deep statement. When I say people should kill themselves, I don't mean like, I'm not actually mad at them. I just mean they're already dead. I just want their physical form to match their spiritual form. And it's really a kind of a deep statement. So don't get upset when I say that. Because essentially I'm just saying like, I'm trying to like have them reach their final form. And it's not like an offensive thing. It's like slit your wrists. It's kind of like a philosophical statement.
Troops out of Vietnam, and he does. The Viet Cong are completely defeated by 72, 73.
I'm starting to think Paul Thomas goes with the sauce.
He beats
obviously.
Ho Chi Minh. He creates the South Vietnam that
Kun Pun, slit your wrists.
only on
Kun Pun, please slit your wrists right now. Take your life. Shoot yourself in the head.
American funding and American air power.
Make like my great grandpa in Minnesota and put a shotgun in your mouth, blow your brains out.
Congress is like, okay, you think you won the war? We're just going to pull, the funding and the air power, and then North Vietnam.
True story, by the way. Actually, it's not my great grandpa. It's like a great grandpa or something like that. It's such a funny. I found like the doctor's note, and it's like they found his mustache in the windowsill.
I'm just going to conquer South Vietnam.
Honestly, legendary.
A massive convention.
Honestly, what a legend. If I live up to that, I'm gonna laugh. I'm gonna be like, yep, I did it finally. It was such a crazy story. The coroner's note is like, we tried to like put his body back together.
Ground invasion. Wow, we basically won't even sell the South Vietnamese bullets. And then we're
Well, that's rough. Hey, that's just a legendary story, okay? It's just legendary epic sauce, okay? And he would, if he saw me right now, he'd be like, I'm not mad at him. He's having fun. And he I understand his mental struggles. And he overcame. I'm proud of him,
retcon this. So
Paul Town, do you believe dreams are significant? Yeah, but I don't think in the way people think they are. Like whenever I have dreams, I always have dreams of like people like gassing me up and like thinking I'm really cool. And I think that just states that like in my brain, I think like I'm like awesome because like my subconscious is like other people being nice to me and like saying I'm awesome and like I'm just like cool and everyone's seeing me as super cool. And that just shows that in my like subconscious, I'm like chill and I'm not insecure about anything. I really did. I was thinking about this earlier before I was streaming actually, because I had some dream where I was a gold miner and I found gold and then I was like partying with people and people were like, you're so awesome. And that was the context of the dream where people were just like, I was hanging out with people and we were hiding gold from other people who came by. There was like friends that I grew up with and they rode in not realizing it was like a field. And I was with some, these two people and they were like gold miners and they realized I discovered gold. So we like hit it. And then we were like hiding in their tent. And then like there are people like that I knew growing up who had no idea. And they were annoyed I wasn't hanging out with them. And I was just chuckling and I just made a ton of money and we were like shoving gold into bags. But really my dreams are just like how I'm epic and everybody loves me. And I think it does say a lot about my subconscious of how I see the world and my place in it.
Everybody thinks Walter Cronkite was right in 1968. And that's how most people think.
But other people have dreams where like they're being attacked or something. And that just shows they're like neurotic. Thank you, Retardo.
Retardo 555 just resubscribed on Kick.
Jewish dream? No, because it wasn't like we weren't nervous. It wasn't like, oh, they're gonna find it. It was more like they're not gonna find it because we're hiding it, and this is hilarious. A Jewish dream would be like worried and they would be searching for it. They had no idea that there was gold there. So they weren't even looking for it. They were just kind of confused while I was hanging out with strangers and we were like in a tent. You know, it wasn't like we were worried they were going to take the gold from us. We just hid it from them so they wouldn't find out that we had it. And we thought it was funny. We were like laughing about it. A Jewish dream would be like, oh, they're trying to take it from us. But, you know, my dream was like, they don't even know there's gold here. They're retarded.
Vietnam
It's
War today.
amazing.
Isn't that amazing? Isn't that just an amazing?
Thank you, Retardo.
And so he's
Dude, come on.
going in there, and I was at a seminar recently, like new discoveries on Watergate, and I actually talked to some old Nixon aides. Dwight Chapin and Jeff Shepard, amazing guys in their 80s, still sharp as tacks, and basically really reflecting. I mean, the whole Watergate thing was really the start of lawfare. I don't want to go too deeply into this, but it was like lawfare 1.0.
This is so boring.
Yes.
And basically Nixon acts as if, you know, he'll make these great speeches. He'll be like, the enemy is the professors, the enemy is the journalists, like really base stuff, right? And then he'll go out and behave as if the enemy is Ho Chi Minh.
That's amazing. And so, I mean, and Nixon, in some ways, was a geek of the administrator, right?
Exactly right.
And,
exactly right.
But even he
What's a big
was
bongo?
not able to
Not even close.
bring back these pieces.
That
shattered.
And pull the cables together.
So the only other, I know this is from the right, but the only other person that attempted that was the closest thing was Dick Cheney in Bush. Is this not
maybe over?
Yo, Anonymous, thank you.
Anonymous sent $10.
Come on, dude. Really? Come on. How about no fart sound effects, please? Thank you. No, you can send money, please, but don't send fart sound effects.
Some like pieces of
maybe of the national security state?
Yeah, over some pieces of the national security state. And so you see sort of the national
That's just
security
facile.
state. Definitely like the Iraq War and that stuff.
I wonder that was you, Bob
gasp
Dole.
Of a DOD that
Yes.
thought differently from the State Department. Nowadays, it's all state all the time. You know, I mean, state
Yes.
didn't want the Iraq invasion, right? You know, and so you see, like when you look at people who survived from sort of the Nixon period with the Nixon mindset into today, into the Trump administration, you're looking at guys like John Bolton or William Barr. Right. And the thing is, you know, Barr, you know, it's a pity because these are very capable people. But the thing is, they're still, and they know these systems very well, but they're still operating on this kind of Nixon theory.
Yes.
So Barr comes in and basically he's like, we're going to stop this.
Yeah, if you guys want my opinion on fart jokes, or buy my books. I have lots of chapters about why fart jokes are bad.
Stuff. But he's not like, oh, wow, you know, like, you know, Andrew Weissman's 15 guys all deleted their cell phone. Like,
This is so important. Okay,
Yeah.
stay right there, Curtis. We're going to welcome back radio. I hope you're enjoying this. I certainly.
I'm not. It sucks.
Finish that thought. So Barr said we're not going to go after Weissman.
Fart equals high
it's not
IQ.
like we're going to clean out can't basically like clean out DOJ and basically sort of stop this incredible
Thank you.
kind of
Riggers.
warfare against the
Dude, come on. Stop. Dude, don't do that. Come on. We get it. You're gross. Don't do that. Thank you. Come on.
executive branch from the executive
Riggers, why'd you do that? That's disgusting. Come on, don't do that.
branch. He's just like, okay, we're not going to do this anymore, and we're going to make DOJ work on behalf of the American people. And like the time for that is really over. Like you just can't, like you can't.
It's not funny. Stop doing the stickers in chat.
You don't have the power to do that in so many ways.
No, it's not funny at all. It's
You're
disgusting.
basically not doing.
It's absolutely
what the
disgusting,
American
and
people
it's
asked you to do
beneath
when they
me.
elected
It's
Trump.
stupid.
So
If this is what white power is about, I don't want to be white anymore. Okay. If this is what white people are up to nowadays, I don't want to be white. Let the Jews win. Let them dig tunnels. I hope they dig tunnels under everybody's house who just sends in stuff like that, and it collapses in on you, and you all die. All right.
I want to get to this other baseline conversation, then we can get to the more current. Can you explain to our audience?
Whenever I hear that, I think of like the Mel Gibson rant, the hot tub rant about the lady going out and what's going to happen to her, and it's not his fault. And I want that to happen to you guys.
Then, who calls the shots?
I want you guys to have.
This is a
I want you guys to have a sexual experience like Mel Gibson described to the lady when he was mad at her.
question I get a lot, and my experience is that it's kind of unclear. It's kind of a culture almost.
Yeah, the question
yeah.
is
You understand what I'm saying?
the question is almost an error because you're basically you're looking for like who's in charge, and the closer you get to like talking to the center.
I love how you can like just picture before the internet, because everything's changed. These people are irrelevant now. It doesn't really matter. It's funny to make fun of them, but you can just kind of tell like the court Jew, that whole archetype of like the retarded king and the court Jew making him feel smart. This is like how it used to work, and this is why stuff would get all messed up, because you get somebody like this by fluke of birth running something, and then you'd have like a retarded Jew like this, like gassing him up.
Or talking to the people, you know, who really matter. They're just like, oh my God, no one is in charge.
Well, so that's what's important, because and I'm not faulting anyone that believes this, because there's some truth to it, but there is this Wizard of Oz type belief that there's someone just calling shots.
Yeah.
And it's Barack Obama from Martha's Vineyard and says, investigate, indict. You know,
yeah, and there are pieces of that, I'm sure, but
the
it's
bureaucracy
not,
operates completely differently than that.
It operates completely differently from that, because the whole thing, the bureaucracy is like basically, you know, the fundamental problem. You know, if I had to
all right, Big Bongo, 10-minute timeout, dude. That's disgusting. What's wrong with you, bro?
That I wanted them to remember that, you know, it's not when they say democracy, they mean oligarchy. That's really
you too, Bob Dole. 10-minute timeout for Bob Dole for encouraging him.
The second thing to say, and I love going around to saying this, people that are really in the loop and in deep in DC, because I've never heard anyone disagree with
you guys
this.
are just disgusting.
We don't have an executive branch. We have a legislative branch. It's almost like a legislative judicial branch in some ways. And the way, because when you look at the so-called executive branch,
yes and rule from Improv Club, that's true Hollywood Joker.
The personnel.
That would make sense, because improv is the worst form of comedy. That's so true, actually. It's just the yes and rule from improv, because improv is not comedy. It's just retarded.
Budget of this are set by the Congress, which is a completely...
Would you smell Donald Trump's... Dude, that's a super chat question, and that's a 10-minute timeout, Plumpy.
Non-democratic and you know...
I'm going to purge all of you guys.
Is a buffer against
none of this.
Politicizing
this is
the deep
immature.
state.
We're trying to learn.
The deep state.
All right, we're trying to learn from Charlie Kirk.
If you look at the influence that the president has on the executive branch, basically, what is an executive order? It's basically a tweet. There's really not terribly big difference between an EO and a tweet. And the ability to, like, you know, even by, you know, you have this org chart that looks like the org chart of a private company, in which basically control flows from the top down, but it's completely illusory. And if you stack that whole system...
Yeah, Mexican Zoomer, white power is
like patriotic...
You know, and this is the thing, too, and this is why I value the truth, and a lot of you guys aren't going to value it, but it's like... Mexicans don't make these types of jokes, you know, and as somebody who investigates the truth, it's just by virtue of looking at the power chat and the live chat, I have to, you know, say, well, maybe America should be run by Mexicans. Maybe people like Mexican Zoomers should be in charge of the country, because white Zoomers aren't exactly living up to my code of conduct. Nobody who's Mexican is sending me fart jokes.
Which unfortunately was not really done in the last administration, but you know, there's something called the Plum Book. Do you know the term Plum Book?
Of course, the 5,000 positions in the
5,000 positions that Trump gets to appoint, right? And you basically put 5,000. I don't know where you'd find these people, but you put 5,000 really, really capable, you know, people who really see the world the way you do, Charlie.
And want to work for the federal government.
And want to work for the federal government. If you take these imaginary people and put them in and make them exist somehow and put them, you know, my friend Sarab Sharma is trying very hard.
No, he's doing a great job.
He's doing a great job. But the thing is, you know, here's what's going to happen. They are basically going to parachute in there. They're going to find that they have no way to constrain the permanent staff who nominally work for them. And
sex jokes. No, Irish people can make sex jokes. That's where like people don't get. If you watch what's it called, The Guard, it's an Irish movie made by Irish people. And there's so many of the degenerate jokes about sex and stuff in there. But it's hilarious because it's not neurotic. It's just good old-fashioned Irish people. It's not Jewish sex jokes. It's like jokes about prostitution, jokes about sex. It's hilarious. You know? It's just not neurotic. It's just funny.
Is going to be offered a choice. First of all, either you turncoat immediately, you become a traitor, or we are going to destroy your professional life. We are going to saddle you with hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal bills, because this lawfare industry that we're seeing is just ramping up. We're going to saddle you with hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal bills. You will never have a career.
Once again, this is just Jewish, just the final form of Jewish society. It's people suing each other forever. The final form of Jewish society is has like owes $1 billion to everybody else, and everybody's trying not to pay it. Like, think about the education system. You owe $1 trillion to learn how to read. To learn how to read and to operate an Excel spreadsheet. Oh, that'll be $400,000. The political system. Oh, you're being sued for $1 billion because you're talking about stuff on the radio. It's just the final form of Jewish societies. Everybody suing each other for free money.
In this space at all again. And like, we're going to do everything to destroy you personally, but certainly professionally. Or you can just turncoat and, you know, maybe after 4 years we'll trust you and you can get some jobs. You can kind of burrow into the bureaucracy.
In the final Jewish societies, everybody's yelling at each other. Everybody owes $1 million to each other, and nobody is paying anything. Nobody's doing anything. People are just arguing, and there's imaginary numbers they owe to other people.
Heard this story hundreds of times.
And then nobody goes to prison because everybody owes money, and so nobody wants people to go to prison, so they can't pay. Like, they refuse to put somebody in prison because if they put them in prison, they won't be able to pay them.
Pussy sent $5.
Squish that cat. All you need to know is to squish that cat. And you just gently squish them. That's not comfortable for the cat, or that safe, to be honest with you. You can just throw a towel on the cat again, squish her with a towel. What you can do is scoop her up, a little football carry, just like that. Butt in your hand, and just squish her tight to your body. Just squish them really tight to your body. You don't have to worry about hurting it.
That's a cute video.
Just squishing them against your bodies. And there we go. We just made friends with this wonderful little cat. Look at that face. Look at that face. Squishing is your best friend when you're dealing with a cat. You basically just lean forward, squish them nice and tight. And again, I'm just squishing them into myself. We always squish that cat.
Times.
That was a first good super chat of the night. Good job. Thank you.
People that go into the bureaucracy and they are confronted.
Yeah.
And if they choose incorrectly, within a month, hell is unleashed upon them.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
I can tell you, whether it be in housing and urban development or whether it be in the Department of Interior, it is systemic across the board, right? Mm-hmm. There is not an inch of turf that they will concede, not anywhere. And it was as bad, Curtis, and I want to get into this. Trump would say, I want to do A, and the bureaucrats would say, huh.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
they would just throw away the order. They would literally, and it would take 4, 5, 6, sometimes 8 follow-ups, months, until you could even get 1% of what the order would say.
Yeah, Jews, dude.
Subversion. I want to, and by the way, this is a huge challenge. What can you even do about that? Email us freedom@charliekirk.com. Curtis Yarvin continues. Okay, so Curtis continues. What
can we even do about that? Well, I have an answer, but you may not like it.
Okay.
And your audience might not like it.
We want the truth.
Yeah, the truth. And I think that I feel like Americans are really, like, one of the things that, like, you know, as we were talking about before the show, like, American conservatism sort of may not be quite there yet, but, like, it's waking up a lot.
No, it is all the best. I call it the great melting. Like it's finally this ice age of these old ideas are melting away. It's not there, but you can start to see these new things come out.
And you're just starting to see DC for what it really is. Like you go like in your 11th grade civics class and you like read about how a bill becomes a law or whatever. And
it's so ideal.
And then, you know, there's a budget and then you know, like even the frickin' omnibus bills, like, you know, it has no resemblance to, you know, Congress isn't even a parliamentary body. Like
It's true.
not,
It says the most retarded
it's
stuff
not
ever.
Talking shop. People don't actually like debate there. It's this bizarre system of committees, right? And so, the idea that like like if you could bring the founders back and basically show them DC as it is today, they would just be like,
what's wrong with these
what does this even
Jews?
have to do with the thing we created? Like, how are you basically using these 18th century documents to justify this thing?
That's the tragedy.
Remember I said
is that
18th century?
They don't need to rewrite the Constitution. They've just ignored it.
Yeah.
They just kind of built their own.
They've made it a dead letter. And the thing is, you know what else is a dead letter? The Articles of Confederation.
Yes.
Nobody ever abolished the Articles of Confederation.
It's like a boring Joe Rogan guest.
This isn't a thing anymore.
We need Moldbug on Joe Rogan. I want Moldbug on Joe Rogan so bad. I would almost prefer Moldbug on Joe Rogan over Nick. All jokes aside, I would want Nick because Nick's it's good for Nick and it would be funny. But it'd almost be funnier to have this guy on Joe Rogan for 3 hours and absolutely nothing would be said.
Sort of abolished the Constitution within sort of, nominally adhering to it. Of course, about Chris Caldwell and
I did a whole show on MLK yesterday.
Yeah.
What's my take on Richard Spencer?
I'm a believer that
kind of indicative of the founding stock of America sucking. It's out of their hands. It's like, yeah, this is the best you got from the founding stock. It's over. It's done. All right.
we actually have two American foundings. The second was in the 1960s, and MLK is the George Washington of the cold.
These guys are nerds. They're not nerds, though. That's the thing. Because I'm kind of a nerd. I actually am actually a nerd. I like programming. I like reading, like philosophy, that sort of stuff. I like to talk about retarded stuff. I kind of obsess over like autistic stuff. Like unironically, I am kind of a nerd. I'm kind of a scumbag too, because like a criminal record, whatever. But I am like actually nerdy. These aren't nerds. These are losers. Losers are people who want to come off as being nerds, but there's no real actually nerdiness. It's just annoying loser tier stuff. Like nerdy people are fun because they're nerdy. Like you watch that Tetris, the kid who won the Tetris thing, who beat the Tetris game. That's like a nerd because he's like absolutely super nerdy, and it's fun to watch it because it's like it's different, but it's like kind of cool because it's like he's in his zone, he's being nerdy. These are just losers. These are absolute losers.
Sure. I mean,
I don't want to get too far down.
I would say that was a minor founding compared to the founding of the 1930s.
But the modern elites honor that one more than 1776.
What's on your criminal record? DUI or fraud? It was a violent felony, but now it's just criminal trespass.
Sir.
Oh, absolutely. And 1786 is sort of, like unrecognizable from this world. And so, I guess I would say that, stepping way, way back and looking at kind of the grand sweep of American history, I would say...
I have criminal trespass. I'm guilty of criminal trespass, I guess.
One of the most brilliant things, the founding generation is sort of very different from the abstractions that people see. These are real people with real flaws and real,
Shout out to women running society for giving me a criminal trespass
real situation, and yet they were brilliant. They were in the real world. They were doing real things. And one of the things they did in the Constitution that was kind of a work of genius that I think we can really learn from is they never specified which of the three branches is in charge. And so...
But wasn't that part of the brilliance?
That was part of the brilliance.
I'm not questioning their wisdom.
That was part of the brilliance, because basically what that allowed to have happen, as Aristotle described, 2,500 years ago, there are three...
Aristotle sucks. All right, he's fine, but he sucks. If you want to know Aristotle, just learn how a database schema works. If you learn how database schemas work, you try to read Aristotle afterwards, you're gonna be, this is retarded. This is like a literal retarded waste of time. This is just a database schema described, but inefficiently.
Sort of forms of government and modes of power. These are democracy, the rule of the many, oligarchy, the rule of the few, and monarchy, the rule of the one. And what we see in American history...
What do you think about Plato? Plato's awesome. Everyone should read all of Plato. And I'm not joking. Buy the full Plato collection and read it front to back like 3 times. It teaches you how to think if you don't like, because it's conversational and it's back and forth. It's dialogues. And so it's back and forth. And so as you're reading it, you're taking on the perspective of different perspectives, debating an idea. And so by natural, like just by virtue of reading 1,000 pages or whatever of back and forth over and over and over again, that's how you start to think about things yourself. You start to analyze ideas that are not related to philosophy, that are not related to whatever, in a way where you are questioning yourself in a non-neurotic way. And you can actually start to actually think instead of being a golem. It's awesome. Have you read Jane Austen? Yeah.
Every 75 or 80 years, sort of like the San Andreas Fault, you basically get a presidential government. Your government goes from being, sort of the rule of the many is pretty hard to pull off.
Plato complete works. It's not like there's a lot of cool ideas and just cool discussions, but the main value isn't even that. The main value is learning how to think and think for yourself.
Days. The rule of the few is pretty normal in this system. That breaks down.
And that's the thing. Plato is Talmud for people without schizophrenia. It's in good faith. All the discussions that happen in Plato, some of them are a bit trolly, but besides that, it's all in good faith and it's all like proper logic. Whereas it's not reading lawyer briefs, which are like disingenuous and malicious. The Platonic dialogues are, I think that's how I say it, right? Those are actually in good faith, so you're learning to think in a healthy manner. And work through ideas in a healthy manner instead of like the Talmud, which is just insane Jewish people trying to be disingenuous and freaks.
And you get a president like Washington or Lincoln.
What's your favorite Jane Austen? Sense and Sensibility. Is that Jane Austen? Because there's Louisa May Alcott, but I think Sense and Sensibility is Jane Austen. I could be wrong. I read both. I just don't remember which ones are which because it was such a long time ago. Sensibility. I'm not spelling it right, but it'll fix it. Yeah, Jane Austen, yeah. Yeah, Emma is another good one. Is Emma Jane Austen, right? Yeah, Emma. That's another good one. Pride and Prejudice. I never read it, but the BBC production of that is awesome. That's like the BBC old Pride and Prejudice thing from either early 90s or late 90s or early 2000s, whenever it came out. That's one of the best shows ever. Pride and Prejudice. It's awesome. Very, very good. The only problem is once you start seeing enough of them, they all kind of follow similar plans. Emma, I've probably watched 15 different versions of Emma. Not by choice, but it's like, which Emma are we watching tonight? Oh, the 35th version of Emma.
Lincoln or FDR, who is really personally in charge of the federal government.
Did she write Frankenstein? Who wrote Frankenstein? Because that's a good one by a female author, if she really wrote it. Who wrote Frankenstein? What's her name? Who is that? Mary Shelley. Mary Shelley's another good author. What else have I read of hers? Books. Authorship. Did she write anything other than Frankenstein? Frankenstein's a really good book. I think Frankenstein's a really good book. Very enjoyable. Good characters. Unique perspective. Very enjoyable. Frankenstein's a very good read. Good, like different like aspects of humanity and like people wanting to fit in and not fitting in and like what that causes. I really like Frankenstein.
In the way that Elon Musk is in charge of SpaceX.
That's a great analogy because I'm reading the Walter Isaacson book on Elon. Mm-hmm. He is the closest thing to, and I don't mean this pejoratively, he is a dictator over those companies.
He is a king. He is a monarch. He is a CEO.
What he says goes, and he is the arbiter of what success is and what is not.
And when you look at how everything that works in our world works, whether it's a restaurant with a chef, whether it's a movie with a director, whether it's...
You read a lot of fiction? I haven't read anything in a long time. I just read it, like, growing up, I, what is the book, the French book, Two Towers? No, not Two Towers. I forget what it's called. Like, Lord of the Rings, Chronicles of Narnia, and then a bunch of different, like, Oliver Twist. Those, in 1800s, like, Anglo literature, I read a lot of that. Count of Monte Cristo, Tale of Two Cities, yeah. Tale of Two Cities, Oliver Twist, Pride and Prejudice. I think I read some Pride and Prejudice, but the Prince and the Pauper. All those books are really, really good. A lot of Mark Twain, Connecticut Yankee and King Arthur's Court. Those books are really, really good. A Tale of Two Cities, Old Mystery. The Time Machine. That's another classic, The Time Machine. Count of Monte Cristo. That's too long. That book is so long and boring. I didn't like that book. I never really got into it. I don't think I ever... Yeah, like Treasure Island, all those books. Like Robert Louis Stevenson. Awesome. Another Irish Chad. Siege by... what's his name? Siege, that was a classic we read. And that was a really big one that you had to read in high school. Siege by James Mason. The Turner Diaries, that's another classic we had to read for high school. Yeah, Roald Dahl's awesome. He's my favorite kids author. He was really good because he had short books and he had kind of biographies, autobiographies that are a little fictional, like Boy and Man. I think those are really good to read. He was awesome, and he had a great illustrator too, Quentin Blake. He was such a good mix of good moralism. He's kind of similar to what's those the Blue Book fairy book, the Grimm's Fairy Tales. He was kind of like a modern Grimm's Fairy Tales, where it would be a kid's stuff, but it would also be a little gnarly in certain situations. Danny Dunn and the Anti-Gravity Machine. It. That's another good one. A lot of really good old books.
It's a company.
Thus Spoke Zarathustra. Yeah. Mein Kampf. That's another great one. Table Talks.
With the CEO, you see this pattern sort of repeated everywhere, where you put one person in charge, you make him or her accountable, but you don't let anyone micromanage that. And basically, authority flows from the top down. So in Washington, there's a saying that personnel is policy. And so, so if you want some policy to run, get the right people in charge.
Yes.
That's not how SpaceX works.
So that's super important. Email is freedom@charliekirk.com. Curtis Yarvin, we're getting somewhere. Subscribe to our podcast. That's not how SpaceX works. Great example is the Falcon rocket that Elon Musk sent out. Did it with a ragtag team of 500 people on the 4th attempt.
Yeah, if I was going to be Hitler's editor, I would cut out the first third and second third, or the third third, and just leave the middle part of the book. The middle part of the book is awesome. The first third of Mein Kampf sucks. And when I say sucks, I don't mean is bad. It's just not good. Compared to modern writing, it's all great. But the middle part of Mein Kampf is the actual relevant, actually intelligent, actually interesting part. The other parts, the beginning and the end of the book, are kind of suck. In terms of, if he just left the middle third, that would be it would be pure Kino, and very, very correct about everything. Mein Kampf, great book, huge fan.
The competitor, NASA, or even Boeing's division that was working with NASA, 50,000 employees, and they couldn't get it done.
That's right. Because basically NASA is full. When you look at an oligarchic...
You actually read it? Yeah, dude. I read Mein Kampf. I actually do read. I haven't read in 10 years, but I have read.
System at a bureaucracy, the way it works is by process. Everything has a process. Nothing is left to individual discretion. And if there is individual discretion, Fauci has some individual discretion. The way he uses that is by ganking the process.
But honestly, and I forget what it's called. I don't know. This is a while ago. The Goebbels' writings were way better than Hitler's. Goebbels, because I'm more of a sociologist than a political person. Goebbels was very, very interesting. A very, very good writer, very good thinker. I don't know, I haven't read all his stuff, but whatever I did read, which was a collection of his writings, I'm not sure if it was a book or just a collection of his diaries or something. His analysis of sociology and media is so good. Even if you hate him and you're retarded, he was really, really excellent. His writings are better. Mein Kampf, though, is worth reading because you realize there's a lot of good ideas, and then there's also a lot of ideas that are kind of meh and not really that interesting. But when you read it, you like the Thin Red Line said, it's kind of you read it, and then you know who's actually read it and who hasn't read it by the way they talk about it. And most people who talk about it have not read it. because they act like it's some like it's like Lovecraft. It's like the Necronomicon. And it's like, dude, it's just like actually a kind of an autistic long book that could be much shorter, but still is not bad. It still actually has a lot of good ideas in it and a lot of interesting analysis in it about like autocracy and democracy and the flaws and stuff, and theory about how government should run, and ideas about like adoption and ideas about that sort of stuff. It's not actually like some scary book.
Manipulates procedural outcomes. He's like, I want this procedure to let my friends do gain of function research and get.
Whereas I would say, like, even though there's some ideas in like Mein Kampf that stick out as like, oh, this is actually a pretty intelligent idea, I like this analysis. It's Goebbels is way better. Goebbels is like, dang, like this guy's on top of it. This guy is really, really thinking about a lot of stuff. This guy is smart. This guy is really, really intelligent and really, really, really on top of social mechanics and theory about like society and individual and group relations, and also media.
More grants. So how can I make this come out?
Like it is genuinely like Goebbels is like, his writings are insanely good. It's not like he's a genius, because it's nothing like, there's nothing that's like, whoa, this is like, I can't believe he thought of this. But it's like, there's a ton of stuff where it's like, I can 100% see where he came from to get to this point of view, but it's he's very clear, and he has a very clear grasp of what he's talking about. And he's really, really thinking mechanicalistically. Yeah. Whereas Hitler more is kind of like, every once in a while there's, oh, that's a really good idea. I get where he's coming from. Or interesting perspective. He's very thoughtful. Whereas Goebbels, it's just like, once he gets into it, he's like, it's not just like, it's not a Germany thing. It's not a race thing. It's more of a scientific mechanistic thing with like, obviously his context. He's more writing from the perspective, almost like a scientist, which is really, really interesting.
My friends at Duke in China are going to go and find all the bat coronaviruses and mutate them to make them more dangerous. And that's literally how we got COVID.
So true, Paul.
Wigger sent $5. So true, Paul.
Thank you, Wigger.
Metro Boomin, make it boom.
Nice. Thank you very much.
And so you have all of these like process-based systems. Everyone is covering their ass at all times. There's no.
But I would say like the reason to read Mein Kampf isn't to get any big red pills. The reason to read it is it's so relevant because of mentally like Jewish people, to be blunt. And once you read it, you realize this guy isn't a genius. He's also not retarded. And I think you guys kind of know this, but it's basically the people who love Hitler, they should read it, because it's like, this isn't actually genius. It's just a lot of very smart or correct ideas about the world. But there's not like, it's not crazy analysis. But then you also, on the other side, it's like, this is also not the work of somebody who's crazy. This is not like the writing of a madman. This is not the writing of some demonic devil. This is the writing of somebody who had very strong ideas about certain things and was decently correct about a lot of things. But he wasn't a genius. But he also wasn't like a devil. He also wasn't some sort of monster. Because this isn't the writing of a deranged. This isn't the writing of a deranged person. This is the writing of somebody with like mild Asperger's, who's correct about a lot of stuff.
Accountability in a process-based system. No one can ever be held personally accountable. Who's been held personally accountable for COVID? No one.
And no one will be.
No one will be. And that's a bitter
black pill.
That's a black pill. That's a bitter pill to swallow, right? And so, but the thing is, here's the important.
And then you realize how mentally ill people. The biggest benefit is realizing how mentally ill people are when they talk about Hitler. And the people who pretend they know about Hitler, and they talk about him like he's some demon instead of just somebody who had flaws, but also had a lot of interesting ideas and understanding of autocracy, fascism, democracy versus, a ruler, that sort of stuff. He had a lot of ideas about stuff. And then you realize just how insane people are and how they just lie about it. And it really, the big benefit is just realizing how mentally ill people are right now about Hitler.
Important thing. When you're a libertarian, you basically think of this like, the private sector, which is operating on libertarian principles, is good. The public sector is bad. This is why SpaceX operates better than NASA. Well, if you go all the way back to the Apollo project or the Manhattan Project, we just saw Oppenheimer, right?
Was Alan Turing a faggot? No, he was like the first trans person before Discord. Think about how many computer programmers are trans. It's just that. He was just a trans person before Discord. It's not a fake story, it's a real story. He's just a trans person before Discord, dude.
A pretty good movie, portrays Oppenheimer's a bit more of a communist than that movie portrays. Otherwise, pretty accurate, and it portrays the scene pretty well. And the thing is, you look at the Manhattan Project, that's the most successful engineering project of all time. It's a government project. It's pretty much carried out almost exclusively by progressives, or as some people say, communists.
I would.
Communist is just a euphemism for progressive. And
vice versa. Yeah.
And my grandparents were American communists. They always said progressive.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, back to the 30s. The meaning of the word has never changed. And not in the 20s it meant something different. In the teens, maybe, not since the 30s. And so,
What flavor? Wintergreen. I had to get a new driver's license because my one was expiring on my birthday on the 14th. By the way, it's my birthday, so feel free to send $1 million. But and so I went to the DMV, got it. The new license hasn't shown up yet, so they put like holes and they marked it as like used. And so the only place I can get nicotine right now is like an Indian shop because, the Indians don't check whether your, license is valid. So the only thing they had was wintergreens, and so I got that. I was like, yeah, I'm going to go to the Indian gas station or the Indian like smoke shop, and I'm going to make sure that, because they're not going to check if I have a valid license or not. Otherwise, the gas stations will always check.
You have this system where you're just like, wait a second, whether it's public or private isn't the determining factor.
Sure enough, they let me buy it.
Libertarians or communists isn't the determining factor. What is the factor that makes the Manhattan Project work? And can you imagine trying to do a Manhattan Project with the way like government-funded science works today, the way NASA works today? It'd be impossible. It'd take 100 years.
And it is, again, I love the Elon Musk analogy because it's illuminating, and it is kind of the buried lead of the Walter Isaacson book, which is, he doesn't acknowledge, Walter Isaacson's a lefty, right? He's even kind of attacked Elon in the interviews subsequent from the book, but the buried lead is, oh my goodness, how did he get it done? Oh my goodness, he also had Tesla. And the buried lead is because he went in, he had full, complete authority and control.
Absolutely.
It so happens he's a genius. No joke. And he also has his own demons and all that. But imagine Elon having to work through a committee.
Yeah.
There is no Tesla. There's no SpaceX. It got so bad that there is a chapter in the Walter Isaacson book on Elon. It was Christmas Eve. SpaceX was bankrupt. Tesla was bankrupt. He put all of his own money in. He was calling bankers.
Story.
He was throwing up. He was nauseous. He hadn't eaten for 2 weeks. Literally, true story. Yeah.
Thank you, Thuggies. I appreciate it.
Thuggies sent $10. Happy birthday, nigga.
You don't understand this and you're not white. I can understand the vibe.
$5.
All right, let's go Traxy. I've been looking at the old BMW sedans from the 90s, and there's some really cool BMW sedans that I like. Maybe I've been doing like rally car racing, but there's some cool, maybe I'll get a BMW sedan from the 90s, because there's some really cool ones. And they're really like Kino looking, despite being sedans instead of, thank you, Traxy.